twist the conversation. Yeah.
Well, it's midnight in Pakistan, and this beautiful man is up for a PhD, aren't you, Saleem?
So I am here to see how I can learn from you rather than get a PhD.
Oh, I think we're going to learn from you, aren't we, Jim?
It's wonderful being in a learning environment where we can learn from each other.
Definitely.
Well, I think going forward, as I see it, we're going to be learning from each other. So, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, so am I.
I'd be real disappointed if I ever thought this is as much as I'm ever going to learn. Because I don't feel like it's been that much. So okay, now I have to ask my wife, because she's the only one that knows for sure. What is the plan here?
What is the plan? Yes.
Well, I believe that you've seen the career achievement questions.
I have.
Yeah, okay. So I think it doesn't have to be by order. It can be just a discussion, but you start the process, Dr. Jim, by asking the questions. You know about entreprenology.
Wow.
By the way, I'm a very good talker, so if you just start me off, I will take it from there.
Good. Well, I mean, like I'm looking at some of it, like list in chronological order, the evolution of your career, beginning with the completion of any formal education. I mean, I'm not even sure I could answer that question, but I do like question number 2, as completely as possible. What do you believe was or is the most successful period of your career?
That's a very, very interesting question. And is it okay if I break my career up into small parts and just
Absolutely.
give you a background? So I am a son of a very, very successful CEO banker, and that has been my biggest challenge, because my father is a banker, and bankers like to save. I'm an entrepreneur, and I like to spend. So there's always been this tussle that, why are you spending so much? And I'm like, because I need to grow. So the first startup that I did was I was studying finance at Fordham. It was my undergraduate degree, and even before I graduated, I had come up with a way of transacting online. Right? So it was not a technical way, but it was more of a process. And this is before PayPal. This is in 1998. And the first thing that I did was I put together a model where I would be able to understand how, you see, at that point in time, in 1998, the dot-com boom had started. Now, India had lots of, burgeoning websites that were just popping up left, right, center. E-commerce was the buzzword, .com was the buzzword, and but the biggest problem was that in India there were only 1 million credit cards, right, by Citibank, and there's no other way of payment online. So how are you going to build an e-commerce platform with just only 1 million consumers, and those consumers would never pay online? So we came up with a methodology where, how nowadays you go to the bodegas and you get these scratch cards and you just scratch them and then you get a number on that. So that's something that I came up with, and we called it the electronic currency. We launched it in India as the e-rupee, and we raised, I don't exactly remember the exact number, but it was close to $17 million. And the biggest financer at that point in time was a company called PSI Net. PSI Net at that time was the largest ISP in the US. So we went out to India, we signed on a lot of deals with lots of schools and everything, so that kids would be able to buy their uniforms from these e-commerce stores. They would be able to buy these books and then so on and so forth. And the way that they would be able to do this is that they would be able to buy these cards from the local tuck shop, the bodegas, scratched off, and get go online and make the purchase. We didn't realize that we were too far ahead of the curve. We blew away all the money, came back to the US, went to PSI Net and said, hey, we're so sorry, but the dot-com bust has happened, and we've packed up shop, and here's the remnants, here's the remaining money. And they said, oh, listen, did you guys pack up everything? I said yes. They said, oh, that's great. By the way, you know what? We're also going bankrupt, and here are 5 other companies that need to be packed up. So could you wrap those up as well? So, so that losing so much money taught me the biggest lesson. And that biggest lesson was the balance sheet. Regardless of what your product looks like, regardless of what your service is about, the most important thing that you need to do is that you need to focus on how everything goes down your finances, from your sales or your revenue to your cost of goods sold, to your net, to your gross margins, all the way down to your EBIT. And your EBIT is very, very important because that's where you look at your operating profits, and then down to your earnings per share, and then the dividends. So that's the biggest discipline that I learned through this whole. And then I always had a desire to study medicine, and so I enrolled in a pre-med program, and I was studying. I was understanding how to. I was doing all of these, courses in anatomy and physiology, and then all of a sudden I stumbled upon neurology, and that just really, really took things to the next level because I started understanding I started reading stuff that was not being taught in class, and I started understanding the flow of electricity between one neuron and another. And what I realized is that it's the flow of the neurons that actually shapes your behavior. Sorry, the flow of electricity between the neurons that helps you figure out, that's kind of your battery. That's how this circuitry works. And based upon that, different neurotransmitters are fired. Based upon that, it taps into your amygdala, it taps into different parts of your brain, and that's how different hormones are released, and that's the chemical soup that goes on over here. That is what actually creates that thought. I said, okay, you know what? I want to launch a social experiment, and obviously I have this desire for business. So I launched a matchmaking service, and what the matchmaking service did was that it would really study and understand who an individual is. So, if you remember, there used to be a company that's probably still there called eHarmony.
Yeah.
And based upon their same principles, I said, you know what, their principles are really good. Their 29 principles are not taking into account, A, B, C, and D. Right? So I launched a very successful matchmaking firm, and that's where I really, really understood marketing. Because what I realized is that the most important thing over here was to attract a customer. And as you're attracting a customer, you need to give them a base product or an anchor product so that they can come in, and start consuming the service. We'd read about all these things in the, in the business books about Gillette, and it's not the stick that makes the money, but it's the razor. We'd read about, HP, it's not the printer that makes the money, it's the paper, that makes or the ink that makes the money. Right? So I applied the same concept in this matchmaking. And what I realized that it's not the matchmaking, it's not the match where the money is, it's the post-match consultation where the money is. Right? Because if you introduce 2 people, the likelihood of one person, not liking the other as much as the other one is very high. right? And they need someone to talk to. Now, if you are the consigliere of both of them, right, and both are giving you the feedback, then they're going to want to talk to you and not want to talk to anyone else, because they want to know, okay, how did my date go? Did she really like me? Did he really like me? Oh my goodness, you know, so on and so forth. And so we would charge $1,000 for the introduction, and then we would charge $350 per hour for consultation. And I hired people who were much more senior than I was, people who were doing their PhDs in psychology so I was in New York, so this office was on 5th Avenue and 21st Street. So I had access to Columbia University, I had access to students from NYU, and I had these PhD students, and I said, hey, listen, how about I pay you $100 an hour to kind of psychoanalyze all these people? And they just absolutely loved it. Like, wow, $100 an hour? That's amazing. So all of this influx of requests that were coming in, then we would pair them up with different individuals. So I'm very happy and proud to say that under my belt, so we had several matchmakers, but under my belt, I had 14 marriages. I'm still in touch with some of them. In fact, our first wedding that took place, that lady who's a doctor is now a partner with me in one of my newest startups in the healthcare sector. And so it continues. And then we sold that off. But this is where, you know, so from the first startup, I learned about the balance sheet. From the second startup, I learned that it's all about hiring people who are smarter than you. Now, this is all written in the books, but no one actually practices it because there are a lot of insecurities that people have. By the way, if I'm talking too much, please feel free to stop.
No, carry on.
What's interesting, Saleem, is that as I glance over and look at the questions, I'm going, well, he's answering that one. He answered this. I mean, it's, you know, I don't care what order it's in. Listening to what you're telling me, I mean, you've outlined, or like I said, actually answered a number of the questions, because it's all tied in to how you have approached not just your career, but how you've seen opportunities, you've capitalized on those opportunities, you've managed to kind of create an amazing amalgam of the various things that you've experienced in your lifetime. I mean, I can. You start out with, you know, my father was in banking, and you covered that in actually relatively short order, but I'm fascinated by I wouldn't have guessed eHarmony. Right, you go, well, yeah, I mean, I can see this, but and yet, like you said, when it comes to just dealing with people, something like that would have, I mean, I could even see other applications for what they do, simply because they're dealing with some of the less business-related emotions that do factor in. So I mean, that's quite impressive in the overall that you saw something like that. I mean, you were interested in becoming a medical doctor.
Yeah.
And again, you have a knack for looking at something and reaching in and picking out the things that resonate with you, and I can use those in a different application, and they could be very effective. And I think that's what you've proven. I mean, with your Lincoln method, I'm going to make the assumption you didn't start out a few years ago creating the Lincoln method. That's something that has come along as you have progressed.
Absolutely.
Something that and I mean, it's what I love about what you're doing at this point, and I mean, that was, please list in detail what you believe have been some of the failure points of your career. You've even listed those. You said, well, you know, this didn't play out like we thought it would, but in the overall, the thing most very successful entrepreneurs will say is, you know, learn from your mistakes, because we all make them.
Yeah.
And if it's not about how many times you're brought to your knees, it's how many times do you stand back up. And you haven't been defeated yet.
So
we're looking forward to the next bit of the story. I'd like to know more about why did you decide that you wanted to have smarter people? What was, because I've heard that from other people, like I mean, what's his name who runs Alibaba? I've gone and forgotten his name.
Jack Ma.
Yeah, he says that. He says that.
So you see, I believe. So you see, people talk about this word teamwork, and I think that it is the way that it's being used is it's very disingenuous, because the people who are using the word teamwork, they don't really understand what teamwork is all about. It's usually bosses who think so I'm stereotyping. Bosses talk about teamwork, but they don't want to let go of command. Right? Whereas what I realized is that I want to be the dumbest person in the company, and I don't want to do any work. Rather, I would hire people who will do the work, you know, much better than I can. Right? And all I need to do is I need to make sure the funds are available. So this way, I am the fundraiser, or I am the one who is trying to make sure that, you know, all of the boxes, there's enough cash that's available to fund a lot of these, and I'm very proud to say it, failures. Because for me, every day should be an opportunity to fail so that you can fail fast and grow very, very quickly. And in order for me to fail, I would rather fail with lots of smart people around me than, you know, be calling all the shots myself, right? And then be responsible for all of those failures. So, you know, you had mentioned about something about failing, and I take a lot of pride in failing, because if every day you're failing and you're failing fast, you know, you fail today, you learn from it, you fail tomorrow, you learn from it, fail, and all of a sudden, you know, you take one step back and you're like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And that's how I've had no formal training in business, but I've been teaching myself, and it's so I guess, so I'll give you I'll quickly share with you how the next part of my life happened once I started studying medicine. And then, so I started studying medicine. I ended up at Stanford. I showed my research work around, and the Stanford network gave me my own research fund to start my own lab. And I called the lab Higher Labs, because we wanted to go to the HR business. And then I said, you know what, in order for me to start Higher Labs, I need the right kind of people around me to create these algorithms which will be able to really assess the brain. So I took my work from my eHarmony days, right, from the matchmaking days, and I transferred over here. And I got people who were 10 times smarter than myself to start looking at this, right? Because so I've gotten the money, right? So why not hire people who are much smarter than me? And you know what happened? I went from being a research assistant to being the CEO. Right? So when you make the right decisions, when you let go of things, when you let go of power, you actually become, at least in my case, I actually become more powerful. Right? So we launched this company called Higher Labs. We started getting several contracts from different government agencies. This is where, you know, my trip to Philippines happened. And then we said, you know, let's take on a little more of an ambitious project. And I created a folder on my laptop, and I called it employability test. Right? And we created a whole product around employability test. And lo and behold, just like Hire Labs was a folder on my laptop, which became a company, employability test also became a company. Right? And then we started testing. We tested, I think, about 25,000 people in one shot, for one project. Now we had all of these people who were tested, and so I opened up another folder on my laptop, and I called that the people who are being tested from the employability test. I need to put them somewhere, right? So what should I call that folder? I call that folder tested talent, right? Because they were just tested, right? And lo and behold, tested talent became another company. Right? And then we started building out the technology from tested talent, and we started passing this or giving this technology to everyone, and we started earning money from it. So all of this money that was coming in, the revenue that was coming in, I said, okay, I need to separate this from, my other funds. So I opened up another folder on my laptop, and I said, okay, where's this money coming from? Okay, it's coming from our assessment business, right? So the name of that folder was assessment fund, because the funds were coming from assessment.
Right.
Assessment fund became another company.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
So that has been my journey. I'm very, very happy that I did not pursue medicine all the way. I'm someone who I can't sit still, and I have no respect for the ivory tower, right? And the bully pulpit. Just no respect, primarily because they don't understand they understand the book or what's written in the books, but you put them out in the streets and they won't be able to survive, even for a day. And at the end of the day, I realized that for me, it's all about value creation through job creation. Right? How can you create more jobs? So we have our tested talent program that's running. It's running in several countries, and so it's a testing service. At the end of the day, it's used by a lot of recruiters and HR companies who use our Hire Labs research and use the employability test to test people, and they have the tested talent. Now it's very easy for them to place those people into different companies. And then I realized that a lot of these companies were saying that, Saleem, could you please go into the training business? And I thought to myself, I'm not a trainer, right? And I cannot smell the revenue in the training business, right? But I can't see the balance sheet. I can't see the financials, at least from my end. I don't know how training is an amazing industry, but I don't know how to approach it. So after hearing this noise about, could you do training? Could you do training? And then so they said, okay, could you do at least one executive coaching session with? So this was a large bank. Could you train or could you give a session to one of our banks? And it was a 4-day session. And after that session, everyone started telling me that, this is the kind of content that they have never heard before. And I'm thinking to myself that it's not that you've never heard it, it's just that you've never opened your eyes to look at it, because I'm actually telling you your own life story. It's just that I'm telling this to you, and you have not, heard it. And then at that point in time, I realized that the trainers that are there, especially in the third world, right? Those trainers are not really trainers. They have no formal experience in the industry that they are. Again, I'm stereotyping, I'm generalizing. Right? They go ahead and they watch a few videos on YouTube, they download a few slides from SlideShare, put it together, and then go and try to sell it to the head of HR of the bank or whatever organization it is, just before, towards the end of the year, so that the budgets are there, the L&D or the OD HR managers, they need to spend the money or else they won't get the money for the next year. And, and the training industry, especially in the third world, is being very disingenuous to the companies. And because we are in the testing business, because we know where the problems are, we know what the problem areas are. I thought to myself, you know what? Again, tapping into whatever I'd learned previously, that why don't we let the experts do the training? Right? So if you want to learn about software development or coding, you should listen, or you should be taught by the best coders.
Yeah.
Not by someone who is a small little VP of engineering in some small little company. Right? So how do I get people in Pakistan, which at that point in time was riddled with terrorism, how do I get the kids over here to learn coding from the masters? Right? And I said, it's all up on YouTube. Right? So let me test what you don't know, right? And then let me show you a set of YouTube videos. And then I realized that, you know what, I should look at training from the standpoint of assessment. Let me assess what you don't know, and let me assess your learning type. And then, I already have a very stellar team of programmers. Let me ask the programmers to write an algorithm so that we will be able to create curated learning journeys for you.
Yeah, yeah.
And we ran this cycle a couple of times. And it worked, it really, really worked, especially in corporate training. But then I realized that, okay, so now it's time to put money into this. But what I realized is that before you put money, you really need to understand the market. So feasibility reports, a business plan and everything, these are very, very, very important. But they need to be looked at from the standpoint of financials. Right? Otherwise, there would be a pipe dream. Right? And because I'd already burned so much money when I first started, I was very disciplined. So what I decided to do was, when we did our feasibilities, we saw that there's so many trainers in the corporate sector. Okay, that's red ocean. There's too much noise. I will never be able to make a dent over there. Then I said, okay, why don't I use the same? It's training, right? Teaching is a method. So why don't I teach kids who are in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, right? In Pakistan, we have the O-level system, or the GCSE, or the Cambridge system. So it's a British system. So they have to do their O-levels and their A-levels. So then I looked around the market and I said, oh my goodness, this market is so cluttered. It's unbelievable, right? It's going to be very difficult for me to make a dent over here. Then we stumbled upon the early stage development. Kids in kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, and everything. And I said, this market has so many small players. I can go in, and I can start capturing this market by showing them new tools and new products and everything. So my point of differentiation was not necessarily my product, but my point of differentiation was which market segment I went in. So instead of going for the corporate, which was full of sharks, red ocean, instead of going for the grade 9, 10, 11, 12, we went for kindergarten 1, 2, 3, 4, because there's no presence of a solid player that was out there. And then, because my kids were also, of that age, and I realized that, something, my kids will never, ever go to college, or they'll never, ever go to university. And my wife would just look at me and she's like, we're both Ivy Leaguers, and what are you trying to say? Our kids are going to remain uneducated. I said, no, it's not that. And by the way, this is like 5 years ago. Right? So I said to my wife that the way that the speed at which technology is changing, we are not going to need to send our kids to school for 2 reasons.
No.
Number one, the schools are going to come to our kids.
Yeah,
that's true.
With this all this virtual reality stuff. But more importantly, the schools are so outdated that it will take them several decades to get with the program. Right?
You're absolutely correct.
And that's where we brought in Lincoln Method. What's really funny is that our mutual friend Lewis, I was sitting over at his mom's place. She had invited me over for dinner, and we were just having a chit chat, and I said, Mrs. Anastasio, I don't think that my kids are ever going to be going to school. And she said, yeah, good for you, right? And then Lewis, who was sitting next to me, he said, yeah, I don't think that, his daughter Zoe's ever going to go to school as well. And she said, what do you mean Zoe's never going to go to school? You went to school, everyone went to school, but to university. What do you mean Zoe's not going to go to university? Fast forward a couple of years, we launched Lincoln Method, and then COVID started happening.
Yeah.
And now everyone who was not able to see what I saw at that point in time, COVID was just kind of accelerated the whole thing. Right?
Exactly.
No one kind of expected this, but it accelerated the whole process of online education. And because we had developed our technology and everything, now we are running a very, very, very solid school. It's an online school, and the media in Pakistan is now calling us Pakistan's first online school. I take a lot of, I'm humbled and I'm honored that the media is now referring to us as the first online school. But when I'm given a title or an honor like this, then I take that so seriously, because that gives me a completely new purpose. And in this phase of my life, I'm no longer thinking about the balance sheet. I am now thinking about what can I do if I want to become a billionaire, right? What can I do for 1 billion people? And I become a billionaire.
Mm.
So since I have started change, so my next evolution is going towards social enterprise and social entrepreneurship, and it's going towards job creation. And the reason why it's going towards job creation is because, reading everything that's out there, I have kind of understood what the next phase of our lives, of the course of the world, is going to look like. Everything is moving towards something called RPA, or robotic process automation. The first people who are going to be replaced completely is middle management, because middle management is no longer needed, because middle management really does not do any skilled work. They're just there to manage other people's delivery.
Yeah.
But you don't need middle management. You need algorithms and programs that kind of monitor everyone's work. So when middle management goes, that's why you see a lot of these people in the early 40s. They're never going to be able to get back to the workforce. Right? And then you see the kids who are coming out of college. There are no jobs that are out there. So there's nothing that can be had. So now I'm thinking from a completely different standpoint. I'm thinking from the standpoint of, okay, if it takes a community, or if it takes a village to raise a child, if it takes a village to educate a child, then it takes a village to educate a village. So why don't I create a village of people who want to move up to the next level? And the village or the community kind of feeds each other. And this is where my newest passion lies, and that's in going into any city, any metropolis, for example, Manila, and creating 10,000 new jobs. Now, how can I create 10,000 new jobs? Well, all I need to do is just be involved with the right partners, the right industry, and make sure that the infrastructure is there so that I can put together a social enterprise to create 10,000 new jobs. So one of the ways that we're going to be creating 10,000 new jobs would be to understand. So again, I'm going to take the support of my partners who are in the recruitment business, and I'm going to be working with them, and they get all of these job requisitions from individuals, from a company. We need to hire for this post, we need to hire for this post. All right. So one other really big thing that my partners have under their belt is a government job portal, which has over 1 million job seekers and over 36,000 employers. And that's the eureka moment, because I can go into that job portal and I can hire freelance recruiters or people who want to learn the art of recruitment, right? And hire them freelance and work with the 36,000 employers, right? Get their jobs, right? And get these freelance recruiters to fill their jobs, right? For a very small, amount of money. Right? It's freelance, right? It's a gig economy. No one's going to be getting paid $36,000 a year. They'll be lucky if they get paid $36 an hour. So because it's the gig economy. So why don't I why don't I find people who want to get into recruitment, work with the employers, get the job requisitions, and look within that same pool, of the 1 million job seekers, and identify the job seekers and interview them. Okay, now they have to send that job seeker to the interviewer, to the company for an interview. Well, before you send the job seeker over there, why don't we train that potential recruit before that person goes for that interview? So who best to train that person than an ex-employee from this company who is also in this pool, right? So we recruit the ex-employee as well as a freelancer, and we have the job seekers who want to really get this job say, why don't you go to this career counselor? And by the way, this is all happening online, right? So why don't you go to the career counselor, and he's going to charge you $5 an hour, right? And you just need to spend 1 hour, and that person will be able to tell you everything that you need to know about that company, that industry. So now when you go to the interviewer, guess what? You're already trained. You already know enough about that company and about that industry or about that division to be able to pass that interview. So all the freelance recruiters that we will be putting together, they will have a leg up over anyone else because they're sending the right person, for this particular position. Right? So the likelihood of placements increases, and that's the business of recruitment, about placement. So now I'm thinking, okay, if I've been able to make this match, and I already have Lincoln Method, I already have a school, you know what I really want to do is I want to grow my school. So everyone who is a part of this freelance kind of thing, guess what? If you have kids, your kids' education is heavily subsidized through Lincoln Method.
Yeah.
Not free, heavily subsidized. $20 a month. Okay. Those kids then come into our school at $20 a month. Now we can hire even more teachers to teach those kids.
Yes.
And this is the Education Mama program, which is running very successfully for us. Right? And through this, we've been able to, create. So we've crossed over 1,000 students in our school. I don't know how many teachers we have. I think we have about 115 or 20 teachers. So these jobs were not there, last year. It all happened this year.
Yeah.
Now we're building these education mamas who are earning from this as well. And these jobs were not there, last year. It happened during the COVID. And now, all of a sudden, when I take one step back and I see, oh wow, here's a social enterprise that's running, and it's feeding itself. Right? It's feeding itself off of. It might look like pennies, but those pennies actually make a difference for the gig workers because it gives them, something to do. But at the same time, they're getting quality education. Their kids are getting quality education at highly subsidized rates. So the kids are still in school, especially in places where education is not free. It's a privilege, right? Especially the third world countries that we live in. And and it's slowly uplifting everything. So I've already practiced this on a small scale, but now we want to take this out on a much larger scale. So now we want the thing that I'm getting ready to do with Lewis is we want to start adopting a city. The first city we're going to be adopting is Manila. And this whole thing that everything that I told you right now is actually now going to be implemented in Manila. And there's going to be so much, at least I believe that there's going to be so much traction that is going to be generated from this social enterprise that it will actually create value in something completely different that I've not even thought of just yet. Again, I think that's off topic.
That's the way the world works, though, isn't it? I mean, what you're saying, and it's fascinating because as you were going through all of that, I mean, where you were talking about the educational system being broken, my father's frustration was, he said, speaking to one of the points you made, he said, it's interesting. He said, if I want to get a new business course in the curriculum, he said, it's going to take me 18 to 24 months. And I said, and by the time it makes the curriculum, you're teaching history because things have moved by you already. Yeah. And I mean, that's essentially what you were saying. And but it is fascinating because the system, it's beautiful. What it did was wonderful, but it became obsolete roughly 100 years ago. Yeah. Because it was designed to create factory workers for the Industrial Revolution. And I mean, I love it when somebody sees that, and you articulated it beautifully. I hung on every word, and that's, I'm not joking. It is a joy to listen to somebody that has actually looked into the future and seen what's coming. And it's the ones who don't want to change. They're the ones that drag their feet. They're the ones that say, "Oh no, what we've got here, this is the way of the future." No, it truly isn't. And it's like you pointed out as well. The pandemic was the magnifying glass. When the world stopped, they had to look at it, and a lot of people saw things a little bit differently. Other people, like you, saw things dramatically different, and that's the way we have to go. That is what's coming. And you've also picked a segment of the population, the younger people. Those are the ones that are going to have to be dealing with this going forward. But the blessing is, and it was like, you know who Ken Robinson was?
Yes. Yeah.
He recently passed away. Yeah. He was the one that said, he said, the first thing we need to do is to disenchant ourselves with what education has been, because it's no longer serving the needs of the population as a whole. Yeah. And I mean, that's, you articulated it so succinctly. And that's the other thing too. We can take some of the words out of what we have to say. As they say, cut to the chase. You're very good at stripping away the fluff. That was when I worked in training for a major outsourcer. One of the contracts we had was Dell computers. And they wanted us, we sent trainers to Austin, Texas to train with Dell so that Dell could show us exactly what they wanted. And it was a 4-week training program to get a computer tech up and out into a cubicle taking tech calls. And as soon as our trainers came back, I'm pulled into the office and they say, okay, 4 weeks is going to kill us. We need to cut the fluff out. Yeah. So we managed to bring it down to 3 weeks, and they said, Dell was so impressed, we want more. Yeah. And we said, okay, we'll take another week out, and we did that. Long story short, Dell was coming at us so hard, we created a 1-week boot camp, and the agents going onto the floor were doing better jobs than the ones who had had the full 4-week program.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what, when you were talking, I mean, I remembered that and I go, he knows it. You know where we're going, and we need leaders like you to make sure that we get there. And you're a, thank God, you're a no nonsense person. I kept looking through the question.
Well, I'm happy I'm in good company.
Saleem, we've recorded your dissertation.
Yeah, and what I love about it, and I'm going to pull them out. I've written some, but I will take the script out. But there's some really good lines in there.
Oh boy!
That I think will be IUE quotes.
I think it's your kind permission, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah, with your name on it, you know.
Absolutely. It's all
Yes,
yours. And if you put your name on it, it doesn't matter.
But I think what's fascinating is I love about it is it's a very circular process. You know, the freelancers, the job seekers, the job recruiters, teaching the children, you know, that's for me what it's about. The future is about, I talk a lot about synergy. It's about using all the parts of the machine. And I suppose that, you know, not going in a straight line, but going in an exponential coil. Yeah. And that's what's exciting, is that we won't need universities. I mean, that's not very exciting for the universities, but it'll be that virtual space, which we've always dreamed about with IUE, is that, you know, the value of what you told us was also a teaching tool for the other people coming in, and everybody who comes in to this space. We got to work out how to share all these stories online, because they're so powerful.
Well, it's as I say, it was a joy listening to what you had to say. And I mean, well, that was one of my late father's favorite things to say. He says, you know, he said, if you go full circle, he said, you come back and you collide with your own history. He said, you have to kind of spiral above it. Each time you're going around, but you're going at a higher level. He said, you're spiraling up, and that's, you've got such a, like I said, such a beautiful way of expressing yourself that, I mean, I'm definitely going to ask you for the use of what we've recorded here to bring other people and let them listen to it as well, because you've articulated the high points, you've articulated the potential local, you've articulated what happens if you do fail, but then you rise above it, you come back, you do it. As one of my favorites, it's not about doing things right. Any major corporation, any real large university does things right, but they're not always doing the right things. And that's what you've been doing. You've been narrowing down the path so that you're getting to the right things. And once you get the right things going, then of course you can work on it and get it right. Effectiveness and efficiency. Effectiveness comes first. Efficiency will follow if that's what you're looking for. But you have to be effective before you can be efficient. And that's, I mean, those are the things you not only learned, and I think a lot of it you knew intrinsically, because I think that's the mark also of an entrepreneurologist, is the intrinsic skills. There are things that you know, you understand, that you sense that not everybody does. There's always going to be, as you said, a need for good employees. You're going to need that. The people, but you need, in front of all that, you need the people like you, Saleem, that can see the way and that can engineer what they're seeing into reality so that other people can benefit from it. So It's been a learning experience for me as well. I have enjoyed every minute of this.
I wanted to say that one of the favorite statements of Jim's father was that it's about opportunity seeking, not problem solving. And that's what you said right at the beginning. And that's a mind shift for a lot of people who see the crisis as a problem, but they don't, if they see it as an opportunity, out of it will become a solution. But it's having that mindset that says this is an opportunity. And I think potentially all these kids and the new generations who are learning different ways, there will be more entrepreneurs and more entreprenologists, and there will be the old traditional way.
Well, the young people aren't stuck in the same ruts that many of the older generation, I don't know who the hell they are, but there is that.
Very old.
That's so filled with ruts that you know a lot of people can't break out of it. Well, it's worked for us in the past, yes, in the past, but further back probably than you would care to realize. The old expression, don't fix what ain't broke. Absolutely. The secret is realizing that what you've got is broken. So that's, you know, and it's not a matter of just applying a fix to it. It's a matter of reinventing it. It can be different and it must be different. And what you're doing, you're out there, you're a trailblazer, you're a pioneer. And given that fact, I know
you're giving me more compliments than I deserve.
But I mean, you know you've got a target on your back because you're out there ahead of everybody else. That's an amazing 45 minutes.
The last thing that I want to add over here is a very personal thing, but I like to talk about it publicly as well. And that is that I've never received a paycheck in my entire life. I've never worked for anyone. I've always been an entrepreneur, and sometimes, you know, really big challenges come, and then I stress out over it, pacing the corridors at night, or trying to figure out how to solve all of these, you know, big problems. And now that I'm going into social entrepreneurship or social enterprise, and you know, it's way bigger than me. What I've done is I've changed my mindset completely. I also want to let you know that next week I am going to be making a very big shift, and I'm moving from Pakistan to Istanbul for a period of 5 years, because I just need a different place to go and think. So uprooting our family and everything, and just moving there. The main thing for me was my kids' education, but now we have our own school, so not to worry about that. But as I'm going to this new place, you know, and as I'm taking all of these new ventures on board, you know, like this adopted city, I was really scared. Just really scared, and really scared primarily because there's always been someone who I could go talk to, who could be my mentor. Right? But now, as I started climbing up, the mentor or the people who I had access to, when I listened to them for mentorship, it's not exciting me. I mean, I'm not getting anything of value. Nothing is stimulating me. So then I realized, okay, so I've watched as many YouTube videos of all these top leaders as I could. Nothing is stimulating. So you know what? I'm going to listen to my own inner voice, right? And I'm going to become my own mentor. But if I become my own inner mentor, how do I know that I'm doing the right thing? So then I said, okay, you know what? It's time for me to find a boss, so that anytime I panic, I can just go. I mean, if my team panics, they come to me and say, "Oh, sir, you know," and then okay, and I'm like, "Okay, calm down," and then I just write them a check, and okay, go fix the problem. But who do I go to when I have a problem? I can't go to myself. Or if I'm going to myself, how do I know if I'm doing the right thing? Then I realized that what if I found a really, really, really big boss? And who would that really, really big boss be? Who I could just who I could rely on? Right? I realized that really big boss for me could be the Lord, right? And I just need to rely on the Lord to just take care of me, especially when I'm making these mistakes. I mean, when you're doing the social venture, and if it's as ambitious as I'm thinking, it to be, you get scared, because it's not only your money that you're playing with, it's other people's money, it's other people's lives, right? It becomes a little nerve-wracking. You don't know if it's going to succeed, if it's going to fail. I said, okay, all I need to do is just, there's this big guy or girl up there, right? I don't know. It's a guy or a girl, right? Whoever it is. It's this force that's up there. And I just need to rely on that force for support. And that has been, and since I started thinking along those lines, I have become even more courageous, because at least psychologically, I know that, okay, someone's got my back.
Yes.
And if I make a mistake, right, maybe that's a part of getting my back. Right? If I make a mistake, that's a part of me learning. So me making a mistake and falling down doesn't mean that he doesn't or she doesn't have my back.
Yeah.
Right? It just means that I just need to ride out this motion. And then in the words of Churchill, even the darkest hour has only 60 minutes.
Yeah.
I just need to ride out those 60 minutes.
I love that. I love what you're saying, Saleem. I think it's amazing. And I concur. I think Dr. Jim will as well, but I see it as, it's higher consciousness. It's Lord, the God, whatever divine purpose. I think this is where we're shifting, and we trust in ourselves and each other, and the right people will come to that circle of trust.
Yes, your views on people are just spot on. You need to surround yourself with the people that are able to see at least a portion of what you see, because it's those, and like you said, you can always find good people if you look. It's interesting. One of my, as you know, the last name OMPS. One of my father's big ones, and he was gone before he had a chance to really work it out completely, but it was Optimum Management Profile Sciences.
Wow.
And you talked about, optimum matching profile science. In other words, he said, if you match the person to the position, you're increasing the odds of success.
Yeah.
And you said that a few times today. It's about seeing the value of the person and then being able to match them to what they're going to do. And you were even to the point of like you said, having former employees talk to potentially new employees about a position that's coming up, and learning about the ins and outs, ups and downs of the place that you're potentially going to work for.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's great.
It's magic, right?
It's magical. Yes, I think it's amazing. So you say you're moving to Istanbul next week?
Yes. So I went to Istanbul for the first time last month. So, and within 4 days of spending time in Istanbul, I just fell in love with the place. Oh my goodness, I just fell in love with the place. And I asked my wife, do I have your permission to want to move all of us over here?
Now see, You just put an A on your dissertation.
Yeah, that's really good. She presumably said yes.
She said, I do.
There you go. There it is.
And your daughters, you've got 2 daughters, is that right?
I have 2 daughters. Lenny, she is 10 years old, and Sophie, she's 5. And well, one of the reasons why I want to just completely unplug from wherever I am right now is because there's a lot of noise, right? And I need a little bit of clarity of thought. I also want to, this whole COVID era has brought a lot of things to light. We've lost 3 family members during this process. And one of them was my cousin, who's 26, and then an older individual, my aunt, my uncle. And I've just been thinking that, the most important thing for me as an individual are the people who are closest to me. So my parents, my wife, my kids. And the most valuable, and this is actually I'm thinking out loud, I'm speaking out loud, and I'm realizing that one of the most valuable things that that millennials value the most is not the rat race, not the cars, or not the money and the houses or anything, not the material things. What they value the most is freedom. And I am actually looking at that same element. So I'm getting into the minds of the millennials, of the younger generation, by practicing freedom. And one of the things that I want to do when I'm away, and I'm calling it a sabbatical, but I'm still going to be working, but I'll be working without any noise. Without the office bothering me, without all of these things. Everything will take care of itself. Like, if it doesn't, then we'll figure out. But what I want to do now is see and nurture a new kind of learning with my kids. If you remember in the olden days, in the days of Plato and Socrates, there used to be the elite. They would have one Socrates and then 5 or 6 kids who he would be teaching and nurturing. So in order for me to grow Lincoln Method into something very, very powerful, I want to practice that with my own kids. So my experiment for the next 5 years is to spend as much time with my kids. They're going to be learning through online school, through the Lincoln Method, but then they'll be learning with me. I'm still going to be going to conferences. I'm still going to be going to events and speaking, and I'm going to bring my daughters with me. But what I'm doing this time around is I have encouraged them to start their own blog or their own YouTube channel, and it's an educational YouTube. And so when we went last month, we filmed about 27 episodes, very small episodes, right? Like 3 or 4 minute episodes. And it's for an age group or an audience between 5 and 15, and we did a very soft launch. We're going to be putting some money behind it to take this forward as well. But through this thing, what I'm realizing is that I will be able to teach the younger generation, because it's educational blog, right? All the things that they really need to do or need to learn from an edutainment, in an edutainment manner. So it's entertainment, because it's education. And that's the only, it's edutainment. That's the only way that the younger generation will be able to learn what they really, really need to know. And I'm going to be practicing this on my daughters. So it's going to be their vlogs. They're going to be the ones who are going to be talking. And so, for example, when we went to when we were in Turkey, we did a science project on water. Right? So we went to the beach. We learned about rip curl currents and how they happen. They talked about that. They talked about, if you drink too much water, you could die, and that process is called water intoxication. Did you know that hot water freezes faster than cold water? Right? Very interesting stuff. So then we started talking about wind energy. So we went to a wind farm. So, my daughters actually went to a wind farm. How many kids would have the opportunity to go and see the big, fans? And then we did a whole project on UVA rays and UVB rays and and how it leads to skin cancer. Then we did a whole project on coffee. We did a whole project on the pizza, on the history of pizza and where wheat comes from, how it's grown, and that whole project. And this is a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old. So by doing this, we will hopefully be passing knowledge to others, but selfishly and more importantly, I'm going to be able to teach both of my kids to become wonderful presenters. Because if you can speak in front of a camera at the age of 5, then I'm hoping that you'll be very confident by the age of 15. Whereas everyone else, all of their friends, they're stuck to their phones and their video games and everything. Because in the world of tomorrow, the deal making is not going to be done on this. It's still going to be done in the traditional manner. It's still going to be emotions. It's still going to be the boardroom. It's still going to be overpowering emotions. It's still going to be, negotiation. That stuff is not going to be replaced. So next time we speak, I will hopefully be speaking to you from Istanbul.
From Istanbul.
Yeah. And now you know that you have a new home in Istanbul.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a beautiful, I don't know if you've been to Istanbul, but it's such a beautiful, beautiful city.
We only accidentally went to Istanbul because we were flying back from England to Kuala Lumpur, and we missed our interconnecting flight there. Yeah. So unfortunately, it wasn't a good experience because we didn't get to travel around, and it was very stressful because Jim wasn't very well. But I would love to. I've been to other parts of Turkey. I've been to the coastline.
It's beautiful.
Which is beautiful. Yeah.
I've seen pictures.
Well, now when you come to Istanbul,
forward to the trip.
Well, now
hopefully we'll come.
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Because at one point, I think you were thinking of going to live in Manila, weren't you, with Lloyd? I mean, not with him, but
so I'm still going to do that, but my base will, for the next couple of years, is going to be Istanbul. Yes. Just like my base right now, my personal base is in Karachi, but now it's going to be in Istanbul. So we land there on Friday, but even before we land there, I have been able to, our apartment is already all set.
That's good.
We ordered our furniture, I think. And then we hired a couple of college kids to make sure that everything gets delivered. So my wife is really happy that we're going to walk into an apartment which is supposed to be set up already. So
there you go.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but
I'm sure it will. Yeah. I get the feeling that when you set the intention to do something, Saleem, it happens.
Yeah, but I do fail a lot of the time. So.
Well, that's okay. And tomorrow, you're over midnight, but your radio show is tomorrow, is that right?
Yes, it's
the interview.
Yeah, it's tomorrow, 8 o'clock our time. I think. Yeah. So I don't know if it's. I don't even know how it's done. So
okay, but you'll probably get a recording, will you?
Yeah. I get a recording.
But it would be great to have that as well, to listen to it, because that's a great accolade, beautiful accolade from Pakistan.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they're calling us the first, Pakistan's first online school, and I didn't look at it that way, but sure, I'll take it.
Well, I think as the president of IUE, Jim, I think you will be able to write Saleem the suitable acknowledgement of this wonderful PhD.
Yes,
Wonderful.
absolutely.
Wow, I'm so honored.
Well,
We are.
you'll have to give us a mailing address as soon as you get to Istanbul so that we can send your plaque there.
Wonderful. Wow.
But you will
Oh my
receive some.
goodness. Now you're bringing
Well,
tears to my eyes.
Well, I'll tell you,
and
you have no idea how uplifting it is to
oh, it's
find
fantastic.
somebody that can actually see what's going on and can actually you've managed to get a glimpse at the future, and now it's just up to you to get the rest of us where you are.
No pressure, huh?
Well, that's right, because you realize as a PhD from IUE, you are now adjunct faculty because you
That's
have a
right.
wonderful story. And also,
You're going to
you
be an
sent us,
expert in several areas, so be prepared.
yes,
It will be my pleasure. It will
yes,
be my
and
pleasure.
Jim's got the MOU, and we'll put his signature on it and get that back to you. And you were going to reconstruct, or your people were going to reconstruct the certificate for the.
Yeah. So just let me know what we need to do. We need to do something with the logos, right?
Just to make it. Jim sent a high res and make it bigger, so that you can actually read the words on it. And
The bigger when you shrink it, it maintains clarity.
Yeah. And also, we do have a contact in Kuala Lumpur who's going to start a master's program with us, and I think she would be a good candidate to run the Education Mama stuff there. So we can connect with you somehow on that once or with your team member.
Yeah, absolutely. So this coming week is going to be a little chaotic for us. But
Absolutely.
I'm going to try to see how I can get stuff out to you. And then right now with the Adopt a City program, we're doing internal selling, to Lewis's.
Yes.
So they have their own general assembly. It's a huge company, right? So internal selling is going on right now. And once
that's great. Yes, because I met Louis, and he showed me all the figures and all the stuff. It was amazing. Yeah.
So then I'm going to try to see how I can get you guys on a call with the team in Philippines, because for me, you guys are going to be a very integral part of how we take this forward and how we introduce this to the government.
Yes, fantastic.
So thank you. So I guess all in due course, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to move things as fast as I can, but I'm going to be limited to how things move.
Absolutely. Well, when we talk to the Divine Lord and how timing is always perfect, because it's always when it's meant to be, and nothing happens by accident. That's what we think as well.
I'm so happy that I'm in familiar company, in good company.
But we are too.
Yes, I want to be able to put you out there as adjunct faculty, and I have a feeling you're going to get called on. So
wonderful. It'll be my pleasure. Jim, I have one very, very big favor to ask you, and that is that although I'm going to be really looking forward to this plaque, if there's a photograph or an image or something that I can get before I go to Turkey, right?
Oh no, absolutely. I can send you a hard copy, one that you can print off.
Yeah.
Yes, and just to say exactly what the name is on the plaque.
Yes.
Is it just
how do you want it to appear on the degree?
Wonderful. I'll text it to you.
Okay.
Yes.
Do that, and like I said, then I can go ahead and create the diploma itself and send it to you, and you can print it off.
Wonderful, wonderful. The reason why I want to do this is because I'm in the office right now, and I want to have all of these things with me when I go.
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
Because when I go to a new place, then I don't know where the printer would be. I don't
Yeah.
had to hire an IT guy first before all of these things start happening.
Yeah.
Well, Jim can do it today. If you just clarify what the precise.
Yeah.
The name the way you want to see it.
Okay, all right. Wonderful. I'll just send it out to you right now.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. So I feel although I'm a medical doctor, I've never used that title. It has no significance or relevance for me. But I feel that this doctor, this PhD, has more meaning to me than anything that I've ever studied.
Fantastic.
Because it's me. That's who I am. Not
Absolutely.
not something that I studied. Something that I really have to really work hard at doing. I can't remember any medical terminology anymore.
That is music to my ears as well, Saleem, because if you use it and you're proud of it, that helps us to spread the word around the world, because this is the time now for Entreprenology and the legacy that Jim's father left us.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be wonderful. Yeah. So the sooner you send that out to me, right, the sooner I'll be able to splash it all over. Look, guys, this is more important to me than the medical degree.
Well, I'll suggest something then. Do you want to write it on the chat there? Is it just Saleem Qureshi?
Yeah, it's just Saleem Qureshi.
So, because I noticed on your Gmail it was I.
Yeah, that's because the tech admin who created that could not find Saleem Qureshi. They just put an I Qureshi, and I've had that for like 11, 12 years now, and I guess it's
So it'll be just Saleem Qureshi.
Yeah, it'll just be Saleem Qureshi.
Okay. Well, you can do that, Jim, can't you? And that'll be ready for when you wake up this morning. I'm assuming that you're going to go to sleep now.
I'm so excited. I don't know if it's going to be easy falling asleep. Wonderful. Well, folks, I'm so happy to be a part of this family.
Yes.
I'm so happy that you welcomed me in, and you have my word that I will work tirelessly to not let any of the people in our community down.
And we're honored to have you. So
we are.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, folks.
You take care and sleep at some point before tomorrow. And the certificate will be there.
Wonderful. All right, folks. Thank you so much. Good night. Good afternoon to you. Good night to me. I'll speak to you soon.
Good night. Okay. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.